Welcome back, WBZ 1030, Real Estate Radio Boston. Check us out, realestateradio.boston.com, or give us a call, 855-4-ASK-RICK. Great bumper music. Love it. Hey, really excited. Thank you. Yeah, let's keep it going the whole way. Really excited to bring in a good buddy of mine, Doug Munsell from Longwood Appraisals. Doug, thanks for coming back.
My pleasure, Rick. Holly, good to see you both.
Awesome to have you back in the studio.
Thank
How
you.
are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Excellent, thanks.
So, Doug, we met probably 14 years ago when it was the Wild Wild West. You actually rented a
subleased a space where you were working.
Within how times have changed. You know,
Yep.
We're not even supposed to be friends anymore, I think is
Well, I think we're allowed to socialize once in a while, but we're not allowed to talk about business.
Yeah, right. Can't talk about value and all that sort of thing. But listen, right now this market is crazy, and we keep talking about it. There's many pockets in and around Boston. Some are hot, some are not. But that's causing sort of a challenge for appraisers out there, because I think some people are just getting emotional with their buys. They're offering, these crazy amounts of money on these properties, and your job is to come in and justify it. And sometimes you can, sometimes you can't.
And you're creating a lot of this problem, Rick, by the low rates.
Right. Well,
As people get anxious, they say there's only so much on the market, which is part of the challenge today. Is actually when you do an appraisal, you can almost find more sales than you can current listings, because as listings come on and they don't last too long in the current market in a lot of the towns that we do business with, which are, when you're talking about good access to public transportation, getting into downtown Boston, those towns historically do great.
Right.
Starting with Boston itself and then going out to Brookline and Newton and Needham and Wellesley and things with public transportation generally historically do well, and they're able to defeat a lot of the negatives in some markets that other towns that don't have that access seem to suffer a little bit more.
Doug, what are some of the challenges? I mean, I can't imagine sort of having my feet in your shoes, because every agent that we've had on the show, much like Rick was talking about, they're talking about all these various neighborhoods. We're talking about bidding wars. We're talking about multiple offers.
Right.
We're talking about buyers that are forced really into putting in an offer that's $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 over asking.
And that's true, because if you get, as I say, if there are limited listings on the market and you feel compelled as a buyer that now is the time because the rates are so low, so even if you overpay, even in your own opinion, if you overpay, if you're getting a rate, it's all about the monthly payment. As you were talking about before, it's really can be about the monthly payment. Mm-hmm. So if you can overpay, but the rate is so good that your monthly payment is no different than what you would have paid with a higher rate but a lower price, it makes no difference to you as long as you can get in the door and you want to get in the door.
But what are the challenges that you're faced with as an appraiser?
For the appraiser, the problem is that right now you have a certain number of sales, and that's declining as you go typically into a winter market or towards a winter market. You have less sales to work with, but the sales that you have are generally pretty good. But are they enough? Are there enough sales in the particular neighborhood? Take Newton. You have 13 neighborhoods, fairly concretely defined. West Newton Hill may have only 2 or 3 sales in it in the past 6 months that are comps to what you're looking at.
Right.
So now you have to go a little bit far afield. Maybe you're going to Chestnut Hill. Maybe you're going to Woburn or wherever you have to go. It's a little bit more than the mile that they like to see on an appraisal. But the nature of the game is to do the best job with the best comps that you've got.
So let's talk about that and just break it down a little bit for the listener, so they sort of understand what needs to go into appraisal to satisfy an underwriter and the secondary market. Essentially, what you need to do is you need to sort of take that subject property and bracket it. Is that fair to say?
That's correct. You have to have properties that are larger, that are smaller, that approach from above in price, that approach from below in price, so that the reader, because you're communicating to a reader, whether that's someone in your processing department or someone at the Fed level or the consumer, him or herself, you need to show that this property, when you come in with your appraised value, is centrally located and reasonably located within properties that are perceived to be better or properties that are perceived to be a little bit lesser.
And that's where your issue comes in, because when someone gets a really emotional on a property and they're $100,000 and now they're the most expensive property in the town, there's nothing to bracket that comp, so that you're going to come in a lower value than maybe they're paying for.
And you're talking a little bit in the difference between price and value. And the appraiser's job is really to address value, not so much to address price. And once in a while, you get in markets where there is so much activity in competition because there's just not enough listings that people are going in a town like Winchester, a multifamily. Mm-hmm. There are very few multifamilies in Winchester.
Right.
If that's what you want and that's where you need to be, you may end up, and it happened, paying $100,000 over asking price with 6, 7, 8 other offers that are all over asking price, all driving the price until the realtor or the seller says best and final offer, and you jump way up over everybody else. So as an appraiser, I'm not going to have a high end. If you're in at $850,000, maybe over the last 12 months, the next highest sale was $800,000. I can't bracket yours. Now, if there is demonstrated value for that, if that $800,000 is truly $50,000 lesser of a multifamily property, then I may have to go to a neighboring town that has had a few more sales that does allow me to justify that if I can either equate the two locations, the two towns, or make an appropriate adjustment. And there are ways to do that through things like Banker and Tradesman, the Warren Group.
Now, it's hardcore data that you're employing in order to be able to bracket the value of the property. You can't project on, quote unquote, the perceived value based on what the market is doing.
That's correct. What ends up on the grid, which is what we're bracketing with, about 30 different factors, 30 different items. You are trying to approach factual above, factual below.
Gotcha.
Whether it's price, whether it's size, whether it's bedroom and bath count, whether it's basement finish, whether it's how many parking bays in the garage, all those issues, central air, number of fireplaces, all those things are factual, but there is still a subjective component to this, which comes down to condition and quality.
Gotcha.
One of the things that we're seeing a lot of and deals that I've been saving lately are from some of the big box national banks that use what's called an appraisal management company.
What's that?
Well, I mean, and Doug can probably speak to it more, but essentially it's, these big lenders can't manage all these appraisals and all these, appraisers in all of these states. So what they do is they hire a company to do that for them.
That's correct. You may have a large national bank may have how many thousand offices across the United States,
right?
And they're not going to maintain 1,000 separate lists of appraisers. They're going to ask someone to be a third party to step in to manage that aspect for them and to assign what appraiser gets what deal.
I think the biggest flaw, and we're seeing that, I'm getting people calling me saying, hey, we think this appraiser came from New Hampshire to come figure out the Winchester market, or came from the Leominster market to figure out, try to navigate through the 13 different neighborhoods in Newton.
Right.
And I think the biggest problem out there with these is they're so big and they don't understand geographics, where I'm getting these calls and saying, hey, you don't have an appraisal management. The way we do it is we've got a department inside MSA that does a round robin, but all based on different geographical areas. So Metro West.
Correct.
You're great in Metro West, Doug. So you'll go out and the market, the 13 markets in Newton, and you can go out and really put a lot of math and experience behind that appraisal. These appraisal management companies are falling short, in my opinion, there.
That's correct. That is correct. You can generate a local appraiser list where you're comfortable through your experience. You choose what companies you believe are most knowledgeable, are most experienced, are best at communication, represent you at the door well, professional, on time, and let the borrower or the client feel that they are getting a fair shake.
Right.
That's not to say that the number always comes in, but if you do all the things right and you represent the job and yourself well, and MSA well, then there's not a lot to complain about, at least in the process.
Right.
You may not like the number, but you understood the process.
Doug, you did it again, but you came in here and brought a ton of content, great knowledge about your business, and we appreciate the listeners appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Doug.
Always happy to see both of you.
Thank you.